This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Hello and welcome to Tested, where I do a first impressions of a game that I've played once or twice, in this case twice, and give you just a general feel for the game, because for me a review needs to be very in-depth and the game needs to be played many times with different groups, different player counts, to give you a good feel of the game. Whereas Tested, I'm just gonna tell you how I feel after just a few kind of like dips in the water. Now Cuzco is a tile placement game, much in the vein of like Carcassonne, where the rules are pretty simple and there are little fiddly rules that you pick up over time. This is actually the third in the Mask trilogy, which includes Mexica and Tikal. Now, if you know, Super Meeple have already updated these two versions of the game, and if you remember well, the original third version was called Java, but it's now called Cuzco under the Super Meeple house. Now, I haven't played any of these previous versions of the games and all the other games either. This is the only one that I've touched of the trilogy, and so my comparisons are going to be null and void apart from the images that I've seen of basically the original version. As you can see, this version is a little bit more polished with nicer temples and nicer meeples. Now, the main mechanisms of the game are terraforming and getting control. Terraforming is very, very simple. You're going to be drawing tiles from a pool reserve, and you're going to be placing them out onto the board. These cost action points whenever you add a tile. You also have your own personal reserve of tiles, which consists of hexes of 2 size and 1 size, but the main pool is going to be of 3 sizes, and you're going to be creating villages and fields out on the board. And there's also going to be basins where you're going to do your irrigation. Placing these tiles out on the board, you can stack them side by side, but you can also stack them in a kind of very technical way of not just like stacking them equally on top of each other. They have to be layered in a way so that they overlap other tiles if they are the same shape or the same size. Getting control is basically having one of your incons higher in that zone, like a village zone, and that will give them control. Of course, you're going to be fighting for control over villages and also over the fields, because you may need to build a basin, which will give you a big chunk of points in one big go, which is really nice. But most of your points are going to be earned from building temples, and temples, you need control of a village, which will turn the village into a city. The size of the temple will depend on the size of the village. So if you have a 5 hex village, the largest size of the temple you're going to make is a level 4. Now, the game can be played by lazy players because you can follow a simple formula, because you have 6 actions on your turn. And you can spend 4 of those actions terraforming, and then 1 action getting an incon to a good spot in the village, and then the last action on building the temple, which will give you points. And then you have a free action if you wish to have a festival in that village. And again, a festival will give you points, and it will include all the other players that have incons in that village. And you're going to be playing a little bit of card play, which is you're going to be offering gifts to the gods, and the players that offer the most gifts, which correspond with the discard pile, they are going to get those extra bonus points. Now, as I said, lazy players will follow this formula over and over again, but that's not where the game lies. The game lies from, trying to place your tiles out on the board in a fashion which other players are not going to notice, because yeah, you're going to build a village size 4 and then build a temple size 4 and then have a festival and get some points, and then the next player will come along and they will make that village bigger, and then they will make the temple bigger because they've got control of it, and they will have a festival which will give them bigger points, and it's like stepping stones. And that's kind of dull. But if you use your imagination and do different things, maybe not even place many tiles, you have to place 1 tile, because the first action that you always do is place a tile. But also your other actions are just swamp everywhere with your incons, because they can block and make players pay extra action points to get around them, because every time you traverse from a village to a field or a field to a village, that costs an action point. But technically, if this guy's in the village or in the field, he can move to any space in that field freely. This game is a perfect information game where it is a case of outwitting the other players and playing strategically, and also puzzling out how best to place tiles, because there are moments when you're placing a tile and you go, wait a minute, I'll take that one back, I'll put it there instead. And then, yeah, there is quite a bit of thinking in this game, but as I said, you have to outthink the other players and go in a direction which is not going to benefit them, but just benefit you. And it's, as I said, lots of strategic play in that aspect. The only little bit of luck, there's a tiny bit of luck, is in the card draws for the items that you're going to get for the gifts, and that's about it. So this game is a visual puzzle that you're having to lay these tiles in the order that you need them to get them, and even stacking them can be a puzzle in itself, you know, because as I said, you can't really practically overlay one perfect tile on top of another. They have to be slightly askew. You can cut villages in half with strategically placed tiles. You can block routes for Incans to walk along. It's a very thinky game, very simple but very thinky and very beautiful. At the end of the game, when the board is full of terrain tiles and temples that have festivals, it looks very beautiful. And talking about the end game comes along quite naturally. When the pool of tiles is empty, the game ends and every player will have one final turn to score extra points. And this is where you're going to try and get your Incas into the villages, which are now cities because they have temples in them, to get points. If you have control over a city with its temple, you're going to get the amount of points as marked by the temple. And then after you're done, the next player will do the same. They will move their Incas and try and get control, or maybe terraform a bit just to get control over the city. Maybe cut off part of the city so they have control. It's possible. It's a very visually puzzle game in that aspect. Scoring points for the basins is very good as well, because you can just like lead players astray, because the bigger the basin that you create, the bigger the points, and these basins can create a big chunk of points in one fail swoop, whereas creating a temple will give you a few points, and having a festival will have a few extra points. But these basins, if you create like a size 4 basin of water tiles, that's a big chunking 12 points, 3 points per tile. Again, finding ways to block the other players from getting to places, or making movement to that certain space or that certain village more expensive in action points for them is always a fun victory for yourself. So I've played it, tested it, liked it. I can't wait to play it again. Simple as that. That is Cuzco. You might want to go and check this out if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. If you want to read a bit more detail about this game, I have posted a blog up on my website, boardgameseverybodyshould.com, and you can also go and check out everything else that I've been doing there.
Just sitting at the table next to Felicia.